What's going on, YouTube? If you are new here, welcome. And if you are not, welcome back. And if you are looking for information about the college life or higher education, then you are in the right place. And today I want to talk about a question that I seem to hear a lot, and it's trying to decide which college is right for you. And actually, this video is the first of a two-part series where we kind of break down a lot of the things that we don't normally consider or that we don't give much thought to. And so in this first video, I want to talk about some topics that we think about at the surface level, but we don't really go much further in depth until we are already there. So to begin, you may have one college in mind that you know you want to attend, or you may have a list of some schools that you want to look at before you make your final decision. If you don't have a list, I strongly consider that you do make one, because when it comes to the college search and figuring out what your future experience is going to look like, you need to be looking at all options and consider all possibilities. And as an added layer to this list, what I want you to do is I want you to set aside anything anyone has ever told you about college and what you should do. So that means your teachers, that means your friends, what you've seen on social media, what you've read about, what you've seen on TV. Put that all aside. Don't listen to that, because what you need to look at is what matters to you. What is most important to you with your college experience? Because these other people, they're not living your experience. Only you are. So don't make a decision based off of what someone else said. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is cost. And so what we tend to do as humans is we pretend that the cost really isn't as much as we think it is, or we try to push that off and think about it at the end. But what's important is you really need to consider what it's going to cost you to attend college up front, because that can dictate a lot of decisions that you're going to make and really start to narrow down which schools can be a reality for you. So first thing, you must complete your FAFSA. There are tutorials online. Your high school may be offering workshops. A lot of colleges also offer workshops for prospective students as well. And what's also important about this is a lot of scholarships and the financial aid that colleges offer are contingent upon you completing and submitting a FAFSA. Now, the other thing to consider is the financial aid that these schools will offer. There's another video where I do a review of an admissions book by Jeff Salingo, and in that he talks about schools who offer healthy financial aid packages and schools who do not offer healthy financial aid packages. So make sure you understand what will be awarded to you and how much that will go towards the cost. A lot of schools will offer tuition calculators on their websites as well. So I encourage you to check those out, to look at the charts, see how much the tuition costs in addition to the room and board, and really tinker with what's within your budget and what might be outside of it, and if any sort of scholarships or grants may be able to cover that difference. Now, lastly with this, some things to consider, and this is what I hear a lot too, is a lot of parents want to see their children succeed, and they want to do anything that they can to make their children's dreams come true. And this could include tapping into their savings in order to pay the cost of attendance for their child to go to the college of their dreams. And that's great, but that's also something to consider as a student. Do you want that to happen? Do you want your family to drain their savings just so you can go to a dream school? Or would you still be okay if you went to a school that was a little bit more affordable? So think about that when looking at the actual cost of attendance. The next thing we don't really think about until we're really farther down the road in our planning process is location. Are you looking for a school that's far away from home because you want that independence? And that's great, but think about this. If you go 1,000 miles away and you start to get homesick, how easy or difficult will it be to get home? If there's a family emergency, can you hop on a flight? Can you drive? How likely is it that you would be able to get home when you need to? So a lot of students, they want to say, I'm going as far away from home as I possibly can because I want to get away from this town. I want to get away from my high school friends. I want to start a new life. awesome. I love the independence. I love the enthusiasm. But what can happen is they get so far away from home, they can begin to feel isolated and out of place and feel like they just don't fit in their new environment. So if you are looking at a school that is far away from home, and if it is possible, go visit that campus. Go see the city that it's in. Go see if you can see yourself there. And you can't really understand what it's like to be alone until you are on your own, but it's the next best thing short of going to the school and your parents leaving you there. Also, when looking at location, consider the city that the school is in. Is it large? Is it a large urban area, or is it a small rural town? So you could come from a big city and go to a small college town, and that may be great because everything is about that school, but it might be a little too small for you. You might not like that there's not a lot to do, or that just the pace of life is a lot different from the big city. Or you could be coming from a small town and going to a school in a big city. And this is a much faster pace of life, or there are a lot of big city things that are not as desirable as what you had in your small town. And so this is really important because this starts to craft your experience and your attitude towards attending the school itself. So really look at the surrounding area. Is the community supportive of the school, or is it just a campus that's just dropped in the middle of a city? You'll know once you get there. And again, this is why I strongly encourage you to make a campus visit. And if you can't, virtual visits are just as great. And really take advantage of the technology that these schools offer in looking at a campus virtually. Another little thing that I think a lot of prospective students don't consider when they're looking at their schools is the weather. Are you coming from a warm climate? Say you've always grown up in the South and you've never seen snow, but you want to go to school in Wisconsin. Can you handle the winters? Can you handle the brutal cold and the wind and the darkness for several months while you're walking to class? Think about that. A lot of students think that, well, it's nice, it's green, and they go and visit in the summer. And if you can, try visiting in the winter. It's not the best time of the year to do that, but you'll actually get to see what that school looks like in probably the least favorable environment. And if you like the school, even when it's cold and dreary, then that might be a sign that that school is for you. And lastly, let's talk about your living situation. So are you going to live on campus, or are you going to live off campus? And so what has traditionally happened is living on campus is actually a little bit more affordable than living off campus. It's changed over time, and there are a lot of schools where living on campus is about the same as living off campus. So that is a question to ask, whether you are visiting in person, or if that's a question you can ask by submitting it through the website or talking to a recruiter or an admissions specialist. And when you look at living on campus, some schools may require that for your first year, and in which case that's taken care of. But if it's an option, consider this. When you live on campus, you are right next to your classes. If you're living off campus, how long will it take you to get to campus? And what's the parking situation look like? Do you need to pay for a parking pass? Is parking very difficult to find? And could you run the risk of being late to class habitually because of fighting traffic and getting from your apartment or your house to your classes? Now, when you live on campus, you can walk out the door and be right next to the classroom building where you need to go for your 8 a.m. class, which is awesome. And I would also say, when you live on campus, you are connected to the energy and the vibe of the school. And what I mean by that is, there is a student that I used to work with, and she started her college career living off campus, but she wanted to move on campus for her second year. And she told me, when I lived off campus, I never knew what was going on. I may have gotten an email, but I never really read it, but I didn't know. I didn't know when all of these things were happening, and she was craving the social interaction. And that is one upside to living on campus, is you have an entire floor of your peers, and you can start to form a community and a circle of friends And you're going to know exactly what's going on. And a lot of the spontaneous things, if someone wants to start a game of pickup basketball, or if they want to go get dinner together, they may grab you, and now you're starting your social experience as well. When you live off campus, it's a little bit more isolated and it's a little bit more difficult to form those social connections. But at the same time, living off campus is you have a little bit more freedom in how you live, and you might be able to find a cheaper option. Now, having said that, in finding a potential cheaper option living off campus, is it really going to be that great, or is it going to be a rundown apartment? So then you have to weigh, do I want the freedom of an older apartment building that's off campus, or do I want to look at living on campus that is a lot newer and a lot cleaner? So these are some of the things that I like to say we don't really think about until we have to when we're looking at which college is right for us. And in the next video, I will talk about more of the academic experience and the student experience, and how we can start to sift through our list in determining which school is best for us. So as always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.